It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here in this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Thank you for joining us for another worldwide transmission against tyranny. It is Thursday, the 26th day of July 2012, and we are going to be here for the next 3 hours today. We're going to have a big exclusive interview on politics, something he hasn't done yet really on my show. It will be newsmaking with Dave Mustaine of Megadeath and, of course, formerly of Metallica. Dave Mustaine, I talked to him last Friday. And we talked in studio for about 45 minutes. We're going to air most of it here. Some of it was so politically incendiary, I don't even think I'm going to air it just because of the way they're going to, some of it, the way they're going to go after Dave about some of it. So, I mean, rarely have I had an interview that powerful. I mean, again, it'd be good for the show, but probably not good for Dave. So some of it I've cut out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is just so much to go over here today. And I'm going to be quite honest with you. I got to the office 2 minutes ago. And do you know why I got to the office 2 minutes ago and barely got on air? Well, I get ready at home. You know, I read news at night in the morning, and I send the guys stories I want printed, and they print up the stuff off the websites I'm reading and, you know, scour the rest of the web. I mean, usually there's a couple hundred articles in here every day. And then we break stuff as it comes out, you know, here on the radio. We break it down as it breaks out on the web. But driving in today, strangely enough, on Monday, I actually had Darren McBreen and Marcos Morales out at the same place covering it because normally I can get to work from where I live in about 30 minutes. I live outside Austin in the edge of the countryside. But where I come into town from outside southwest Austin, there are 3 farm roads that are now major roads but haven't been built up coming in to one point. And every day from about 9 a.m., it's the worst traffic in Austin, this one place I'm talking about. It's the Y. It's called the Y. 3 roads come together on farm-to-market roads. There's big shopping malls, neighborhoods, everything, and it's already hellish. Worst traffic per capita in Austin. So what does the Austin Police Department do? This is what it's like to live in North Korea. This is the beginning of it, where the TSA sticks their hands down your pants, where you come last, where the city is completely shut down for Obama to visit. They might as well have people out there with royal trumpets when he comes to town. It's all about government does what it wants at your expense. So now I'm going to have to start coming a whole nother route to work. It'll take about 45 minutes, but that's okay because at least I won't be stuck for 1 hour. 1 hour trying to go down 3 miles of road with it at standstill. And why was it, ladies and gentlemen? There's not an official truck weighing station there. There is a place, some concrete parking lots on a little bitty road at this juncture where there's already traffic, 30 minutes backed up at 7, 8, 9 in the morning. The police show up every day at 9 o'clock in the morning with about 20 trucks, 20 police trucks to harass and write $500,000 tickets, you name it, to the truck drivers. I mean, I'm talking about for anything. Dust on the bumper, you name it. Revenue generating. It's like watching a bunch of seagulls when they find minnows just diving in and eating them, or you'll see dolphins circling fish, eating them. It's a feeding frenzy. They'll have 20 truck police out there. We got footage of this the other day because I barely got to work. And I took some photos on my iPhone. My iPhone this morning, somebody took the charger out of my car. I don't know who at my house. So my phone dies as I'm driving in talking to somebody, talking to Chris, the producer. Yeah, it's about 10:10 or so. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm stuck in traffic. Looks bad. They probably got that stupid checkpoint up ahead again. Phone dies. So I couldn't get any video of this, but McBreen and Morales went out there Monday, and they got footage of it. And that was at like noon. It was still going and causing a giant traffic jam. Let me explain what happens. The police on a 2-lane road walk out and just hold their hand out. This isn't some official way station for commercial vehicles. They just stop traffic. And they'll take as many, they'll just have trucks just back up on the road while they direct them into this parking lot. And then it snarls up everybody else both ways, and hell breaks loose. And I know this goes on all over the country. I've seen footage out of Tennessee, California, you name it, where they'll have the Army, the Marines run by TSA. They'll just shut down major. I've seen footage on the news in Tennessee where huge highways are backed up 20 miles. As they just randomly search everyone. And they can say, well, those are commercial vehicles. What they do is, they started back in the 20s saying, we're paying for roads, and these trucks are making money on them, and they're heavy and tearing up the roads, so we ought to tax them to build the roads. And they used envy in the general public to, yeah, let's just get these truck drivers. Well, they just pass the cost on to you and the goods. And then they started by the 50s going, just get your little card showing that you own this, this vehicle, so you pull it out and it has the, the license number so we know it's not stolen. Then it's your face. Then it's an RFID. Then you got to have it to buy and sell. Then the IRS says you can't travel even inside the country if they say you haven't paid taxes to the private Federal Reserve. This is the enslavement. Like I have police call in and go, yeah, we're being replaced with robot cameras and stuff, and I don't think it's right. And the cops don't even know. It's illegal. It's been found by courts hundreds of times. You got to have a sworn peace officer sign, the ticket and fill it out for it to be admissible in court. But they don't care. It's all lawlessness. And let me tell you something. That checkpoint out there, I don't care what you say about commercial vehicles. It's lawless. And that's what the TSA and all this is. They're just inducting us into commerce as well and getting us to waive our rights and enter into commerce. And that's how they now say traveling is a privilege. It is not a privilege. Read the Founding Fathers. Read the Constitution. They're now saying guns are a privilege. I'm now here. No, they're not. Just because you were taught that at the academy does not mean it. You're now taught George Washington's a piece of trash at the academy. By FEMA, I have it on video. And the training manuals. Now, it's all garbage. But again, yeah. Oh, wait, McBreen just came in. We haven't aired this yet on the Nightly News because I was going to host it and talk about it. I'm talking 20 police. This was at noon, though. See how the traffic's moving. But down there's a huge stop if you're watching at prisonplanet.tv. And the police just walk out in the road and block everybody. Again, this is at noon. And that's how busy those roads are. But when they do it at 9 and 10 a.m., ladies and gentlemen, it caused a unbelievable event. But I mean, you know what? I was so focused and so ready to get on air today and talk about Obama openly coming out and saying, yeah, you don't need semi-automatic firearms. I told you this was coming. The NRA is part of the UN. They're an NGO there. We had a board member on, former Congressman Bob Barr yesterday. They're at the UN so they can watch them. And that's why they came out earlier this year in the Washington Times, other places, and said, we've been at the meetings. They plan to ban all semi-autos. And I mean, that means have them turned in. You're like, well, it'll cause a civil war. That's the plan. Folks, this isn't a game. And they said they plan to register and then ban all semi-autos. You're like, oh, that's not going to happen. The ATF last year. Guys, just type in public comment period on banning of shotguns. And then you'll get from last year. You guys couldn't find it yesterday. If you want Kurt did an article on it, he can give it to you. It's all over the place from last year. It was on the ATF site, but newspapers ran it as well because it was a public notice saying we're going to ban all bottom-loading shotguns. We're going to ban them from sale, and you got to turn them in. Because they said, oh, because you can take a clip in the bottom, and that's not a sporting use. Okay, this is what they plan. They're not playing games. They want to attack the American people. They want to go, and they'll pick people to go after, put on the news, and show them getting killed to scare you. And a lot of people will line up and turn their guns in. And you notice Bill Kristol of Fox News has come out and said it's time to ban semi-autos. I can play the video. It's on Infowars.com, Fox News. Rupert Murdoch has called for a ban of all semi-autos. You notice Obama's coming out. You notice all the surrogates are coming out. You know, I mean, this is all coordinated, ladies and gentlemen. Mitt Romney, when he was governor of Massachusetts, he said ban semi-autos. This is how they're going to start. By the way, that's most guns. Very few. I mean, most of the stuff that isn't semi-auto is sporting, like a double-barrel shotgun or a Remington 700 or something like that, bolt-action 308. We're in a lot of trouble. They mean business. And again, we're going to go to break, come back, and just reset and get into all this. But I've got to explain something to you, folks. These are criminals we're dealing with. These aren't well-meaning liberals. These aren't even, misguided communists, whatever. These are authoritarian criminals, okay? This is about total domination of America. They've announced the foreign banks own us and run us. And the fact that, this is in my film Police State 2000 from 12 years ago, the feds would do grants to shut down all of I-35. You can look this up in Police State 2000. It's about halfway into the film. It's in the intro. And they would back up traffic from South Austin all the way to Round Rock, 20 miles. I'm talking stop and go, searching cars on the highway. Till the Texas Supreme Court said stop doing it. But other states are allowing this criminal activity. Imagine being the Austin police with 20 truck police out there purely generating revenue, picking the most busy, clogged 3 roads coming together. 290, 71, and Mopac, and all these majors. It's more than 3 roads. There's a bunch of roads feeding into it. And it is a nightmare snarl with red lights. 3 major roads coming in with big roads feeding into those roads. So you got 3 roads coming in with other roads feeding into them. It's traffic 24. I mean, I've driven through there at midnight and there's traffic. And the police set up down 290, 300 yards from the Y, and just back traffic up for 4 or 5 miles so they can sit there and pull truck and just walk out and just back trucks up the road. Okay, well, now it's a 1-lane road. Okay, pull in here. I'm going to write you a $1,000 ticket. Step right up, step right up. That's the arrogance and the disconnect of government. Like, I almost missed a Ron Paul interview last time he was on because of a stinking checkpoint. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible. You know what? I'm going to finish up right now in this short segment. The long segment, I'm getting into the confirmed fact they're coming after our guns. This is huge. But I'm going to finish up because I just walked back in the shipping department that Weldon Henson runs here at Infowars.com Command Center. And I walked back there and I was talking to him about a few things. And he said, man, you're right on about this truck police thing. I was just in Louisiana visiting family a few weeks ago. He'd been off for half the week. And he said, does this look like a truck that needs to be inspected? And it's this big, beautiful Peterbilt, his cousin's truck that he moves highway equipment, bulldozers around with. Oh, yeah, they're even pulling over the trucks going, expanding the road right there. It's crazy. And he was describing how they keep him on the side of the road all the time now. And he's been a truck driver for a long time. He said now, this is all over the country, by the way, they're squeezing us. Just like the Declaration of Independence says, they send out swarms of officers, that's a quote, to eat out our substance. And, I mean, you see brand new trucks, you name it. I mean, I'm not talking about a truck with rocks coming out the back or baling wire or whatever. Truck police should be going around looking for stuff like that. But no, sir, they just, and forget having a weigh station like the state police do. They just, imagine if the state police just block the highway, well, they do that now, and just search everybody. You know what, we're not just going to search people that have opted into the commercial licensure. We're going to do it to everybody. But now, let's go pick the busiest spot in Austin, and let's pull trucks over for 30 minutes to an hour. We were timing it. They would just stack up dozens and dozens of trucks, wave them in, and then I've talked to truck drivers over the years, and they talk about when they can't find anything, they get mad because they're writing everybody tickets. I mean, if they say, oh, the oil's down a little too much, or, oh, there's dust on your bumper, or this tarp wasn't perfectly tied down, or this, let me see your maintenance log. And it is white glove inspection. And then they just write you $500, $700, $1,000, $2,000 tickets. And it's all, and the companies don't care. They don't lobby for their drivers because the drivers pay the ticket. They get 3 or 4 of them. They just lose their license. We just get somebody else and lower the wages. That's how America works. It's a race to the bottom. But after all, we didn't build America, government did. There's a compilation of hilarious humor that we're going to cover later in the broadcast for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, but I'll describe them to radio listeners. And now Obama has been forced to respond to this, saying he was taken out of context. No, he wasn't. He said the government built whatever you have built. Humor, you didn't build that. It's up at Infowars.com, a compilation that Aaron put together of all the great art out there where he tells the Wright brothers they didn't build it. He tells, everybody, they didn't build jack diddly squat. So that's up there. But again, the average cop is told, hey, we got a shortfall of money. You got to get out there and write more tickets. And I've heard the local Austin police chief, we need hundreds of more police officers because the city's growing. No, you don't. You don't need any. And you shouldn't. We don't need to hire one police officer in this town. Because let me tell you what they're going to be out there doing. They're going to be out there writing tickets all day long. And they're going to be out there helping the CPS take people's children. And they're going to be out there helping induct people in the public schools into the prison system. And so, no, we don't need, hey, Mayor Bloomberg, you said the police should all go on strike? You know what? I like that idea. I like that. Because all the cities where you're in control, your big Chicago Mafia, New York Mafia, the cesspits you've created will burn in days. Your people, your precious little dependents, your criminal class that you've nurtured and created to vote for you and to menace those of us that produce, they will burn your filthy cities, your demonic cities to the ground. So good. Go on strike, okay? Please go on strike, okay? Please. I call your bluff, you mafia trash. People say, man, Al Jones is calling Bloomberg a criminal and trash. I told you he should be arrested yesterday, and everybody ran around and found out the point that it is criminal, and he's had to respond and said, he didn't mean it. You are a filthy criminal who wants to tell us what we can eat, what we can drink, what we can do, wants to ban popcorn in New York. This is a degenerate control freak. You're like, well, that sounds crazy. No, it's not crazy. They want to tell you what to do. This is gangsters breaking our back. And let me tell you something, punk. It may fly in places like Manhattan, and it may fly in Chicago, and it may fly in L.A. It doesn't fly everywhere else, okay? We're not all idiots. We know a crook when we see one. We see a thug, piece of trash, maggot, gangster. We know what you are. And we're not your property. And we're tired of you running this country into the ground. Let me tell the police something. You think when they put a 20% carbon tax on California last year, that helped them? That state, everyone's evacuating it. The bankers want that. Now they can buy it all up. Don't you understand what you've... Let me tell you something, police. You're not helping society writing all these tickets. Do you understand that? If you arrest somebody who's recklessly driving 110 miles an hour in traffic, that's helping society. Riding truck drivers that can barely stay above water, who work their butts off tickets and setting up checkpoints is not helping.
I'm a highway patrol.
Let me tell you what's breaking the law.
Well, you know me,
setting up Homeland Security checkpoints all over the country and having illegal checkpoints at bus stations and train stations and on major highways now. And even going after people's bodies with the TSA grope down on the streets of this nation. So let's get one thing straight. All of you that serve this system and don't know what's really going on and haven't chosen a side, or maybe you have chosen to serve the system and you'll follow any order you're told, your little 10-star doesn't give you the authority to walk all over this country and treat us like garbage. But the police aren't even the issue. They're being ordered to be out there. And I'm going to call Arte Saveda. I got his cell phone number. I'm going to call his office, though. And we're going to start shooting video out there constantly to just show how out of control this is. And it's going on all over the country. And they want everybody to know they're the boss, they're in charge, they'll shut down I-35 under a federal grant and back it up 20 miles if they feel like it. It's just pure, raw exercise of power over us because foreign, larcenous, criminal banks have seized control of the nation. They're bragging in all their publications how pathetic and dumb we are and how they've set up an unelected technocracy in our face. In fact, I know I've got this new Obama clip and a bunch of others, but guys, pull up the CNBC I've played probably 20 times, clips of, where they go on for 4 minutes a month or so ago, bragging that global government's here and it's run by mega banks who got us into this by fraud. And then all the guests on the show agree we're slaves, and only one says it's wrong. By the way, Ron Paul's audit the Fed passed the House overwhelmingly yesterday, but the Senate, just like last year's, going to try to kill it. But the point is, 20 years ago, when Ron Paul was first in Congress, he was in for one term and then kicked out as a libertarian, then came back in '96. Ron Paul couldn't get one co-sponsor. So here's the deal. You can kill it now in the Senate all you want. We've now identified, as Zbigniew Brzezinski said 2 years ago, with fear, and his new book admits it, that we're not looking at Romney and Obama and your little puppets. We're not looking at David Cameron. We're not looking at your front men, whether it's Australia or Germany or the United States or Nigeria for that matter. People now are looking at the special interest, and we understand. Now, here's the special interest, because no one listens to them now. We're out here saying it. Others are covering it. When global government leaders call for global government, the Drudge Report, when the head of the EU says we're setting up world government, the Drudge Report links to it. He links to the foreign paper. We link to it. So see, they've been still saying it doesn't exist, and the ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center have been saying none of this exists, and we're all insane, and we're evil, and we're bad, and they're telling police and intelligence communiques there's no global government, there's no international bankers, the Federal Reserve's not private, lying to them. And the police are finding out it's true. So see, now they've shifted from, oh yeah, there is a global government. Aren't we lucky private banks took over America? They know best. Yeah, we're slaves to them, but it's really no big deal. Really, really, honest, really. Let me explain something. No amount of taxes, no amount of tickets, no amount of park fees, no amount of any of it is going to save your big government. The government could be fully financed on 30% of what it rakes in right now, conservatively. If you look at the comprehensive annual financial reports, the real set of books that are public, but the media doesn't talk about it, so nobody knows about it. They want to implode things. Let me explain something. When you raise taxes to a certain point, less revenue comes in. That's a fact. They've known that for thousands of years. The only time you raise them like this across the board with all the hundreds of little taxes and fees and fines that are tagged on to everything you buy, from natural gas to gasoline to the home to building materials to food, everything. Entertainment, medicine, all of it. And I've seen the briefings. The police unions have written about it. Even in New York, they've said, we don't want to do this. We've been ordered to really crack down and give people tickets if they sit on a park bench too long. We've been told raise money. We've been told crack heads. We've been told be imperious, scare people. This has come out. Because the crooks running things are mobsters, folks, and they act like mobsters, and they want police to act like that now. And they tell them, get out there and raise money or you're not going to have a job, you're not going to get promoted. And they give them bonuses when they do. It's designed to kill the country. This is an organized corporate siege. And Bloomberg let us in 2 days ago. And now responded yesterday and goes, I know it's illegal, I was just joking. No, you weren't joking. You told police nationwide to stand down. And I welcome that. You know why? Everywhere, like Vermont and Texas and other places where people have got guns, you're going to see a bunch of bad guys get killed when they go out and try to rob people, because they will do it. If the police stood down, there would be an increase in crime. But there'd be an increase in dead bad guys. The open duck season. But everywhere the globalists are in control with a bunch of lily-livered dependents behind 8 locks, the cities would burn to the ground. And let me tell you, that would be a blessing. I don't want those cities to burn to the ground, but that would wake everybody up when they saw the places where big government's in charge and people can't defend themselves. Good, good. I hope the New York police stand down, you criminal. I hope they do. I hope they stand down in Los Angeles. I hope they stand down in Chicago. Stand down in all your mafia cities, because it's those mafia models in every case that are setting up this takeover. They're the ones. They're the enforcers. They're the capos for the offshore bankers. They come in and hire the lowest of the low. Son of an ear gun terrorist for the Mossad, blowing up buildings to blame it on their political enemies. Rahm Emanuel, mob chief of Chicago. Obama, CIA global double agent, Russian agent, commie. Bloomberg, totally corrupt, all of them. There's the headline, Mike Bloomberg walks back comment the police should threaten to strike after Aurora. See, this is what they want. They want to hold us hostage. They already do that. They already gauge all this in most cities and don't let the police go out and deal with certain crimes and have them revenue generating and tell them to leave certain neighborhoods alone so that it can be controlled. There's a reason the crime rate's been so much lower in areas of the South and areas of the West, because this mafia system didn't take over, but now it is. They gauge and control the crime in New York and Chicago and L.A. It's run. Folks, I've had dinner repeatedly with the Vikings in Los Angeles, the police gang, ladies and gentlemen. They know 9/11's an inside job. They know all of this. Only the moron public doesn't know this, okay? Let me explain that to you. Only the moron public doesn't know all this. Stop being morons. You know, I get up here and risk my life to call these mobsters the scum and trash they are, and believe me, they don't like it. Because they're always saying, lower the rhetoric. Don't. Because if we ever raise the rhetoric up to what it should be, because these are scum, you got to call it what it is. They're done. These crooks have gambled, and all we got to do is call their bluff. And I'm willing to hit the barbed wire first, ladies and gentlemen, so you can climb over my corpse. Because these people have got to be beaten. You understand that? And that's the only spirit that's going to beat these people. So many men out there, you wonder why your lives aren't fulfilled with money or trophy wives or any of it. You're not fulfilled because you're not fighting for freedom. And so many of our heroes go join the military because they have this desire to stand up for freedom. They have this instinctive understanding, but they're being misdirected into a simulation where they're even hiring the terrorist on the other side as a pretext to be there. That's full spectrum dominance. The globalists hire the terrorist, the threat, and then even send over our military so they can have the no-bid contracts. It's full spectrum dominance. It's funding both sides. It's bringing the drugs in and then putting people in prison that use them. The globalists are all about full spectrum, full spectrum, full spectrum, full spectrum. And they have disarmed the entire world. And they know the statistics that armed cities have lower crime. They know it. They know you got a better chance of being struck twice by lightning in 1 year than dying in a mass shooting of over 5 people. They know all those numbers. They're scared. And I want to make the declaration here right now. When you listen to this speech we're about to play a clip of from Obama yesterday, you know, Paul Watson wrote a great article that he says Obama finally caved into pressure. Folks, that was his minions softening up everybody. That was his surrogates coming out saying ban everything but single-shot black powder, like Michael Moore said, and Bloomberg has said ban everything. And his attorney general has said ban everything before. When he was deputy attorney general, and Obama has said it when he was a state senator. Those quotes are public, in the record. Obama has softened everybody up, and now they've got Bill Kristol coming out on Fox saying, yeah, ban all semi-auto. That's reasonable. Rupert Murdoch's come out and said ban them. The whole system's showing you, because they all work for these foreign banks, that they know they're in trouble, and they need a tyranny, or they're all going to go to jail when this collapses. It's going to collapse. They've already triggered it. You can't turn that around. A slow, continued collapse that they're going to orchestrate and pose as saviors in. And so they've got to get the guns now. They've got to be able to arrest whoever they want, go after judges and grand juries that try to go after them. They've committed incredible crimes. The entire power structure has now had meetings and said, look, we're criminals. We got to go all the way. A lot of us stole too much. We intended to implode things, but not this bad. You know, we've got to bring in tyranny. And they've gone to the military and gotten them ready to do it at the highest levels. Doesn't mean that they'll execute at the ground level. That's why we got to get out there. Our lives depend on this right now. Obama, privately at that fundraiser, we have the clip, you've heard it, talked about people that bitter clingers that cling their Bibles and their guns because they know they've destroyed all American culture. They destroy culture everywhere. It's a global, corporatist, plastic death culture that's hollow and dumbed down on purpose. I mean, they've admitted that this is their plan in many of the big think tank documents we've covered here. And so there is that culture of the Bible, not the fake churches, but the Bible. That's what so he had a private meeting. He's like, we got to get the Bible and the guns because it's all that's left. Because the state has to be God. You can't have citizens with their own responsibility in a nanny state taking care of themselves. You've got to blame the hell that is New York and Chicago on the fact that other people are free and their guns are coming there, where you don't allow guns so the criminals feed on people. You can't have the world under your subjugation while the American people are still armed when everybody else has basically had their guns taken or is having them taken. And he says here, I understand, he's trying to talk right to us. He's giving you real anthropology as a globalist. CIA degree, the whole 9 yards. He's sitting there saying, I understand your culture, I understand. Then he lies. It's about hunting and stuff. And we want to respect that, but you shouldn't have an AK-47. And he ties, the soldiers need that. The soldiers, tries to create that, oh, the soldiers mean, oh, if it's for soldiers, we'll turn them in. See, the soldiers are on the streets of America. The soldiers are fighting crime. The soldiers are the ones that deserve the guns. They're the elite. Until they get out of the military, they're the number one terrorist. Obama's Justice Department has stated in their own training memorandums that we've covered here. You know, MIAC, Homeland Security, the list goes on and on. It's no secret. Think about how far we've come and how much they've gotten away with. And so now that's the drum from everybody. George Soros, but the Republican leadership, you know, Mitt Romney, believe me, Bush supported the assault weapons ban, but we're talking about physical ban now. And they're like, you do not need a semi-auto. You do not need a semi-auto. You do not need a semi-auto. You are not going to get one. You are not going to have one. In fact, we did find that original ATF, and we'll put that on screen, ATF to accept public comments prior to outlawing shotguns. This was in the Greeley Gazette, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco. This is their statement. This is from the ATF. Tobacco and Firearms is taking a rare step of allowing public comments. How gracious of them. Prior to issuing a decision on a study that could result in outlawing certain types of shotguns currently available to citizens. And it goes on. Now, this is from last year. The ATF completed a study regarding the importability of certain shotguns. The basis of possible ban is based on the loosely defined sporting purpose test, because they're saying it's not, well, it's not for sporting like Obama says. Using the vague definition, almost all pump action and semi-automatic shotguns could be banned as they are all capable of accepting a magazine. I'm going to stop right there. This is the plan. And by the way, they want to send cops over when you don't turn your gun in to have a shootout with you. They want to get a civil war going. These are criminals that run the government. They want all Hades to break loose. And if we did turn them in, well, then they're really going to have their way with us. This is real authoritarian tyranny trying to take over. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let's play this clip of Obama. Listen to him. Why, you got a right to guns. You got a right to a flintlock. You got a right to something that isn't semi-auto. You got a right for us to take them. That's what they're saying the Supreme Court decision means. You got a right, but we define what that is. And that's a locked up single shot in your gun case. Here it is.
I, like most Americans, believe that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual the right to bear arms. I think we recognize the traditions of gun ownership that passed on from generation to generation, that hunting and shooting are part of a cherished national heritage. But I also believe that a lot of gun owners would agree that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals. That they belong on the battlefield of war, not on the streets of our cities. I believe the majority of gun owners would agree that we should do everything possible to prevent criminals and fugitives from purchasing weapons.
Let's stop right there.
We should check someone's criminal record.
Shut that criminal up. He ordered guns shipped into Mexico and hand grenades and to drug gangs in Indiana and Florida and Honduras. This is a criminal who runs the criminal agency shipping drugs back in. This is the titular head, the figurehead, saying we want to keep guns out of criminals' hands. They did that to blame the Second Amendment. And there are instant checks with the FBI. Criminals can't buy guns. They go rob your house for them. And let me tell you, they don't do that around here because they get filled full of lead. They do that in cesspits, criminal trash like you have wrecked. Let's go out to break with the traitor-in-chief, Obama. The enemy of freedom. Here it is.
Before they can check out a gun seller, that a mentally unbalanced individual should not be able to get his hands on a gun so easily.
Let's hit pause. A mentally unbalanced person like you that hates America and hates freedom and says businesses didn't build their own business, and somebody that would give the order to ship 20,000 guns and hand grenades into Mexico, yeah, you got the nuclear launch codes. We've let a mentally deranged individual have those. We're going to come back with the filth in chief, the traitor in chief, the puppet in chief, the garbage in chief, straight ahead. And if you think Mitt Romney's going to save you, I got a bridge I'm ready to sell you. I now have the White House attacking me through their surrogate groups, as you know, on a daily basis. George Soros Matters, known as Media Matters, and Think George Soros Progress, known as Think Progress, are calling for us to be shut down. We are back live. Listen, I study these people.
Will stand up.
I know who they are. They are so evil and murderous and criminal. These are the bankers that funded Hitler, Stalin, Mao, you name it. And people are like, why would they fund fascist and communist? Read Carol Quigley's book, We Sell, at Infowars.com, top globalist historian, led into the CIA and Bilderberg archives. He brags about it. 1,400-page book, Tragedy and Hope, how the mega banks would set up world government and how they've been funding fascist and communist to destroy free societies and how luscious it all is. Bill Clinton's mentor. Bill Clinton isn't a communist. Bill Clinton's CIA. We even know who his section chief was in London with Hillary. The CIA, though, isn't American. It's British intelligence, which isn't British intelligence. Look at who set it up. This isn't even a secret. It came out of the OSS and Skull and Bones. British intelligence itself had Aleister Crowley in it, for heaven's sakes. It's Satanist. It's a devil cult. They get on their knees to Lucifer, folks. They like killing people. And I know that sounds wild, because you know what? History's wild. People are like, why do they do all this horrible stuff? Because they like it, ladies and gentlemen. You just as soon die before you saw a small child hurt. To them, that's like Beethoven. Now let's finish up with Obama. And again, you notice I'm coming out against them hardcore, folks, because they're moving fast. I mean, I didn't think they'd move this quick. Okay, this is real. We've got reports and videos coming in all over the country of armored battalions, Marines, Army, checkpoints. I mean, it's on the news. It's going, I mean, they are really acclimating and getting ready for something. Is it World War III? Is it total collapse? And right in the midst of this, when he's set to sign that treaty, maybe even Friday at the Olympics. I mean, this is it, folks. This is world government in your face, and they're coming for our guns. And they're seeing if we'll go along with it. First chance they got in Katrina, they ran and took them. You notice that was Bush, because we've got the training manuals. All they do is train to take our guns. The military's on record. The military leaks where they're setting up re-education camps and gun confiscation. It doesn't even become a news item. It's on Infowars.com. The Army responds and goes, yeah, that's our document. You shouldn't have that. You know, there's a story of Ron Silver, the late famous actor, and Bill Clinton was being inaugurated. It was the party that night, that afternoon, and jets flew over the White House, and Silver got real mad because he's so anti-military, anti-America. You know, he's just kind of a dumb, low-level minion of the system who like really believes in all the socialism. And he goes, how dare them do that? They're threatening us. And Hillary looked at him and said, Ron, there are planes now. There are planes now. And we've had a corrupt system for a while, but let me tell you, they got this thing hammered down, accelerated right now. And the old power structure has put Obama in there to take the fall for it. And they got Romney up in the polls above him in all the major polls as the savior. That's probably to maneuver Obama into going ahead along with the new war. I'm just telling you this. Strap yourselves in, folks. And I hope you just don't have front row seats to this. I hope you're in the field getting the word out, because let's go out to break with Obama talking about you don't want criminals with guns. No. Only the military should have them. Here it is.
Check out a gun seller. That a mentally unbalanced individual should not be able to get his hands on a gun so easily.
Oh, yeah. People that don't like the government, they say they're mentally ill.
These steps shouldn't be controversial. They should be common sense. So I'm going to continue to work with members of both parties and with religious groups and with civic organizations.
You know, folks know that I try to stay out of the political football issues of heterosexual, homosexual, black, white, you know, all this stuff. But when it's made political, you got to cover it. And when they attack the First Amendment, you got to defend it. Chicago alderman moves to ban businesses for politically incorrect views on gays. That's franchise people that buy a franchise from Chick-fil-A, which if you're going to eat fast food, some of the best fast food out there. And I'm not, I mean, I don't even eat, I probably haven't eaten Chick-fil-A in 2 years, so I've stopped eating fast food entirely. But when I'm out somewhere on the road, I guess a couple of years ago, I would choose a Chick-fil-A. And you know what? I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A now, I think today when I go home, just because the owner said they don't support gay marriage. He's a Christian. They're closed on Sundays. I've noticed that. All I know is they have really clean restaurants, and for fast food, it's about the best there is. But, oh, my gosh, the mob boss, Rahm Emanuel, he says that you just aren't going to be allowed to be here in Chicago. Maybe you go knock their windows out next because you don't agree with their views. See, this is saying you can't have a business if you don't agree with us. These are terrorists. I mean, Rahm Emanuel wants to tell you what you can eat. So does Bloomberg. So does Hillary Clinton. So does Mrs. Obama. These are control freaks, Mrs. Stero. And we've got a top story, Kurt Nimmo. Chicago alderman moves to ban businesses for politically incorrect views on gays. Yeah, when the media reports it, oh, they're moving to block these homophobic businesses. Yeah, you mean destroy? I mean, folks, that's it. See, why do they want to teach 5- and 6-year-olds about sex, period? Because I don't hate any of these people. I don't even get into these issues, except so many of these political groups. It isn't even about their sexual preference. It's about running our lives and getting into our kids' heads. Let me tell you something. I don't care what you're into. You try to teach kids about this stuff, you're a pervert. You're a Jerry Sandusky. And I've had enough of it. I mean, that's the thing, is that I don't individually like to sit here and bash groups, but when the fruits of something are so bad, well, just look at our society. It's collapsing, just like the Bible says, and that's what's going on. And now we're going to shut your business down because of what you said. Let me tell you, that is incredible. So I'm calling for everybody to support Chick-fil-A. Folks, I put out a video yesterday about Rupert Murdoch clearly being blackmailed, calling for gun control and all this. And I said I don't like News Corp. They've done some dirty tricks to me before. And, you know, they're globalist. But suddenly he's endorsing carbon taxes, world government, turn your guns in. They're arresting the heads of News Corp. They're talking, the Justice Department's talking about arresting Rupert Murdoch. If they do that, they want to shut Limbaugh. They're going after, if they can get them, folks, they can get anybody. That's the point. A government that ships guns into Mexico, billions to these energy companies that don't exist, all these mafia ties, all this corruption, and they're investigating Rupert Murdoch for hacking people's phones when government agencies illegally do it every day. And I'm not saying that's okay. If they were indicting the head of the NSA, Hayden, if they were indicting all these people, if they were all going to jail, I'd be like, all right, now get Rupert Murdoch. But this is selective enforcement against the media, and it's dangerous. And I see people on my site going, I thought Alex was nonpartisan. He's obviously a Republican shill. I hate him now because he's defending Rupert Murdoch. If Bush had been going after the media like this, I would defend, even though it's not really media and it's a George Soros front, if people were trying to shut down that, I would defend it, even though it's not even a media organization. It's a foreign agent of foreign banks. It should register as a foreign agent. The whole government should register as a foreign agent here in America. These foreign banks, all of it. Russia's made them register. It's true. America isn't for the Americans anymore. It's for foreign banks. America is a urinal for the New World Order. Dave Mustaine, huge bombshell interview coming up. Then I got a guest in studio to expose one of the biggest frauds out there, and your phone calls and more. I think I'm going to do a 4th hour overdrive today. I'm fired up. Dave Mustaine. Well, for all of our great radio listeners out there, we've got a real treat. Dave Mustaine, the founder of Megadeath, of course, one of the first guys there in Metallica, is here with us in Austin, Texas. It's always great to have Dave stop by. Dave, why are you in Austin, Texas?
Well, the truth is we're planning on moving to Texas, and so we're just out here house hunting, and it wouldn't be right if we didn't stop by and check in with your viewers and your listeners and see you and hang out. We consider you a close friend, and it just is the right thing to do, especially with everything that's going on right now. You know, last time we came through, we kind of talked a little bit about my world, and we didn't really talk about the world in general, which, you know, I think a lot of people that tune into your program, they want to know what I think about, you know, what they believe, and not just what I do for a living and how my work is and the people that are in it. Although that's really interesting to a lot of people, it doesn't really touch on a lot of the topical subjects that affect us all. You know, not very many people are going to end up being a rock star for 30 years.
Dave, I'm not kissing your ass here, but I've met a lot of famous people, and they've always got something, you know, magic about them. Success. People are successful for a reason, because they have passion, they have dedication, they have a lot of art they want to express, but so many of them really are arrogant and disconnected. And what I've noticed is that you are so real and down to earth. And then there's that media image that we're told about Dave Mustaine, you know, which they kind of claim is the opposite of that. But I've just found that you are a real, down-to-earth guy who really cares about average people and, quite frankly, opens doors for little old ladies.
Well, I think that's just like anything. You know, there's a counterfeit for everything. And I think a lot of people, you know, the way that they spin stuff in the liberal media, they have a counterfeit to what the truth is. And I think that there's a lot of people who have asked me to do certain things, and it's been against my morals. And when I say no, instead of them accepting that, they walk away and they say stuff about me. It's kind of like when you go to the dance and you walk up to some girl that's really hot, and you ask her to dance, and she says no. For whatever reason, you walk away and you're like, well, F you. You know, and you fill in the blanks.
And you tell folks, she's got cooties.
Yeah, right. In a much more colorful way. And for me, a lot of that is, it's funny to read. Some of it's a little bit disappointing. It started to bother me when my kids started to read it. But it's just the way the world right now. There's a lot of cowards that sit on the other side of computers and type stuff that they would never say to your face.
We were talking about that last night, about how in the old days, if you said something about somebody, they were going to come track you down. I mean, you were going to have to defend that. Mm-hmm. And that is something entirely new, where people can just anonymously make up the most amazing stuff. I had one of my crew bring me something today that was online claiming I'd committed all these crimes. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of laughed at it. But 5, 6 years ago, I didn't understand how the web worked. I would have gotten really mad.
Right.
But, I mean, how do you deal with that? Because people can just, I mean, you're a superstar. People can...
I'm not running for public office, and I don't have my opponent saying that I'm a felon. So, you know, it's a little bit easier for me. Most people say stuff like I can't play guitar very well, or I can't sing very well, or you know, they'll make fun of my name or stuff like that. So they don't really bring up my past, because...
You make fun of the cool name like Mustaine?
Well, there's probably a lot of ways that people can make fun of a lot.
I think they're just jealous, Dave. But you just alluded to something, and again, we've already talked about some of this, you know, driving over here to the studio. Yeah, I saw that last week. Mm-hmm. You're alluding to, I'm not claiming Mitt Romney's some great guy. I'm not in love with him. But, I mean, come on. The guy has no criminal record, not Chicago Mafia, left Bain in 99, and Obama's out there got his people calling him a felon. Excuse me, Obama, you got a lot more skeletons than Romney. Your comments.
See, here's the thing. I'm 50 years old now, and I've lived a great life, and I've been around for a long time, and most of our fans, or most of the people who are against me, are very young, and they're very impressionable, which is a part of being young. That saying that youth is wasted on young people or whatever, that's totally true. I remember when I was really young, I was very impressionable, and I believed a lot of things before I checked it out. And if I would have been told, you know, the things that I do now are going to affect me later on in life, I would have probably said something like, well, I don't know that I'm going to live that long. But now that I'm 50 and I've watched so many administrations come and go, and I'm I'm watching my children grow up, which is an awesome part of...
By the way, you've got incredible children.
Thanks. It's an awesome part of when a man and a woman marry and have children, to watch them grow up. You have concerns about stuff like that. And you know, sometimes our fans that are younger, they look to me as a big brother or even a father figure because I really care a lot about them. But I have never been more terrified in my life about what's happening to our country. And you know, I believe that if we continue on the same path that we're on right now, that America will never be the same. I freaked out the other day because I was looking at some investment stuff and just reading it, and one of the things that it said was that if you get a second passport and you plan on moving out of the country, if you denounce your citizenship because of the taxes that are going on here or any of the things that are going on, like the police state we've become, that if you want to get your passport back, you have to know things like, where did your mom... where did she live before you were born, all the way up to now? Where did she go in for prenatal care? Who was in the operating room when you were born? All these ridiculous...
Oh, it's even worse than that. They've introduced a law where if you move somewhere, it's just over. You can never come back. They've introduced the law, and they've introduced a law, which is close to passing. People can look this up if you're listening. This is not a joke. I mean, I feel like it's not a joke. I feel like I'm lying, and this is like Associated Press, because it's so crazy. It's not America. Like having the president badmouth, you know, you didn't build your business. We're going to talk about that in a minute, Dave. But they actually came out and said that if the IRS claims you haven't paid all the taxes, no proof, no court, you can't leave.
Well, a friend of ours who just, it's a wonderful lady that's a friend with my wife and her husband who's Canadian. They wanted to go back up to Canada, and they wouldn't let them go because there was a tax lien on their house because of a contractor who had done some shady work, and they didn't want to pay him. So the guy put a lien on their house, and they're in court right now, but they couldn't even go up to Canada to go visit their relatives.
Incredible. So it's already being put into place. So the clock is closer to midnight than we thought, but...
Well, here's another thing before we get off of this. Again, looking at these financial things, because, you know, I've got, I'm, you know, filling out my will and everything right now because, you know, I'm nearing the end of my life, and hopefully I'll live a long, long time, but I have to face reality. You know, I'm getting at that age where a lot of men, you know, make that journey either to heaven, which I think I'm going to, or some to hell, and I was looking at this thing, and it said that you cannot open a bank account out of the United States of America anymore. If I move to England and say I live there for the rest of my life, if I open a bank account there, they have to notify the United States.
Yes.
So that the United States can continue to tax me even if I don't live in the United States anymore. And I thought, this is crazy.
Well, America's been taken over by this global government. It is insane. It's not America anymore when these globalist interests take us over and overthrow our Bill of Rights and Constitution. But just to have you repeat what you told me off air about the point about, again, Romney is being called a criminal by Obama, and meanwhile, Obama is engaged in all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's sad. It's sad. You know, when you look at Pelosi, Reid, and Obama, they got to remember it's we the people, not we three people. And I am absolutely stunned that, you know, Bill Clinton was going to be impeached for having inappropriate behavior with one person, yet these three are screwing the entire nation and the world, and nobody's doing anything about it. I don't understand why there hasn't been a motion to impeach the guy.
Well, your point right before we went live here was that you've got a Fast and Furious, you've got Solandra, you've got all this corruption openly going on, and then the media's like, Romney's a felon. Right. And again, it's not that Romney's perfect. It's just that this guy calls the police on his neighbor when they're smoking pot in the backyard. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not shipping guns to Mexico to blame it on the Second Amendment. I mean, it's just, let's shift gears to that. Mm-hmm. Dave, what is your take on Fast and Furious, and then tying it in to this new event, this tragedy right next to Columbine in Colorado outside Denver, this tragedy that happens a week and a half before Obama says he'll sign the UN treaty, and he's trying to get Congress to ratify, to register and ban a bunch of our guns.
Well, I had heard about this a while ago, and I had hoped that it was just rumor. But, you know, while we were on stage, we have a song called Guns, Drugs, and Money that we play, and I had gotten so offended as an American that the president had exercised his executive privilege to cover up somebody who, Eric Holder, who to me, I believe that if you're held in contempt and you have documents that are going to either exonerate you or put you in jail, why hide them if it's going to get you off the hook? So that to me is really mind-blowing, and I guess it's been proven that it was staged to restrict the Second Amendment, and it's not just that. The crimes that it appears that is taking place, when you look at the Constitution, there's something in the Constitution where you have to get congressional permission to go to war, and if you don't get congressional permission, there's a clause in there where you have a certain amount of time after that where you have to get permission to go to war. And to my knowledge, when we went into Libya, that didn't happen. And it still hasn't happened.
No, you're right. In fact, if there's some emergency, he's got a couple months. But then after that, you've got to go get the congressional approval. They control the purse. And they sent in the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the other generals, the Secretary of Defense, Panetta, and Obama put a letter out. When Congress said, hey, you got to get approval from us, he said, no, I get it from the UN and NATO. He put a letter out, and they had him go before Congress. We played the clips on the show. They're so incredible. And I think that woke up the military and police more than anything I've seen. Now, if I go downtown Austin, the cops just stop and go, you were right, we apologize, it's all true. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back with more of this exclusive premiere of the Dave Mustaine interview that I did here in studio after the show last weekend. And we're going to be coming back with more of this powerful interview. Then we have a special guest in studio in the third hour. There's a ton of breaking news right now on the front page of prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. We're not going to take your business away if you don't support homosexuality. I think when I was in Virginia, bullhorning Bilderberg, the cops were on our side to come over and go, no, we saw that. They told us that. I mean, think about that. I'm getting chills right now, Dave.
What bothers me the most about it is the fact that they have these shills that are going on all of the programs defending this Fast and Furious thing. And Brian Terry lost his life, and his family, you can try not to watch TV, you can try not to look at the newspapers, but you see this stuff. And it must be devastating to see your own president just kind of sliding this whole thing under the rug. And the thing behind all of this is that, it's not going to stop. When we go through traveling through all the different checkpoints over through Europe, before all the globalization was taking place, and each country had its own border and they had their own language and stuff like that, you'd come up to customs, you go to the border, you'd have to stop and hand in their passport and stuff like that, and now you just kind of roll through there. But when you come to your own country, it's harder to come home. It's harder to go through an airport here in the United States of America than it was for us even in Moscow. We just got back from Moscow, and we rolled through there so fast. I was laughing about it because we got out of the plane, through customs, got our luggage, and we're in the vans rolling to the hotel for the show faster than we get through customs when I come home to the U.S.
We're not as free as we thought. And what's amazing is it's on the news. Obama legalized a bunch of illegals. And when they do fake stings of businesses and stuff, they just release them. And they're now telling sheriffs all over the country that they are not going to pick up illegals that they arrest, even if they're committing crimes.
I don't know anything about that, but I do know that from the people that we've spoken to that are Latino, that we have a huge contingency of Latino fans here in Texas,
all over
New Mexico and Arizona and California. Central and South America, in Spain, and in a lot of the neighboring countries around Spain that are still Spanish-speaking fans. And they have relatives that are here, whether they're legal or illegal, and they know that this was a move to get votes. They know that. The one thing that you can't make, just because they don't speak English doesn't mean they're stupid.
Exactly. Well, they've had a lot of tyranny in Latin American countries. They're certainly more savvy in many ways.
Yeah, they are.
Finishing up with Fast and Furious, if Obama can get away with shipping close to 20,000 guns and hand grenades into Mexico and guns into Honduras, and then states like Florida and Illinois to drug gangs for whatever reason, I mean, my gosh, what are they going to get away with next? I mean, it really is creepy.
I do know this. It's amazing how our liberties are being taken away from us. It's like the frog in the pot of boiling water. You know, if it was boiling water when he jumped in, he'd jump back out. But they slowly turn the temperature up. The frog will stay in there until he boils to death. And that's what's happening to us right here. We don't know what's going on. A lot of the American people are so busy working their asses off to make ends meet right now. They don't have time to sit in front of the news. And the news is such pablum. It's opium for the masses. And it's stuff that you want to feel good. See, the thing that I laugh about when I hear Obama say, oh, give the folks a chance. Give everybody a chance, you know, take away from the rich people. Well, what happens when the folks that he's given a chance gets a chance, becomes successful, is rich? Well, then all of a sudden, you're Obama's enemy now. And the thing for me is that, you know, I'm in that 1% that he's talking about. Megadeath won't be able to tour anymore once all these things that he's planning on doing to me happens. On top of the fact that...
Yeah, we've talked privately. You said, listen, after all the taxes and everything, I'm getting like 20% of it. If they do this, it's over.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in Venezuela or Russia. They don't get it. Once you cut out that small profit margin, it's over.
It's done. It's done. And the fact that he would say that I did not build my own business offends me tremendously. I'm disgusted with this guy. And you know, he's my president. You know, I respect the office of the presidency, but I think as a person and the things that he says, I've never heard anything this offensive ever come out of the mouth of a president. And I'm 50. I've heard a lot of presidents talk in my life. And, you know, listeners out there can say what they want about me or be mad at what I'm saying right now. And I'm saying this out of love for you guys. You know, you may not have love in your heart for me, but I have love in my heart for you. And that's why I'm a public figure and I play music. I try and educate people through lyrics. Some of the songs could be construed as being a little bit, you know, unrealistic. You know, some of the songs are a little bit fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back with more of Dave Mustaine exclusive, in-depth political hardcore interview. Straight ahead, I'm Alex Jones. We are live. It is the 26th day on this Thursday of July, 2012. Year of our Lord, and tyranny is running wild right now. Christians are now to have their businesses taken by Obama. We'll be right back.
And, you know, they're make-believe topics and stuff like that, but songs like Peace Sells But Who's Buying is still relevant today. Songs like Holy Wars is still relevant today.
More relevant than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wasn't because I was clever and I came up with a lyric. I paid attention. I watched what happened through the Carter years, through the Ford years, and watched how, you know, what Jimmy Carter did to our country, taxes at 70%, you know, when I was growing up and thinking, how on earth did anybody survive back then? For me, when you take out 5% for the business manager, 15% for the personal manager, 10% for the agent, and 45% for taxes, what's left for Dave? You know, and people think, oh, Dave's a millionaire. No, Dave isn't. Dave is an American that's getting plowed by the government.
Listen, over 90% of the money, it's like 95 that comes in here, goes to the crew and taxes, and they all pay taxes. Mm-hmm. People don't get it. I mean, feudal serfs paid about 10%. We pay almost everything. They just, I mean, people have no idea. They think, well, they've done actuaries where if you took all the rich people's money, what they call rich, in the United States, it'd run the country for like 3 months. I mean, it's gone. But that's who goes and gets their hair done. That's who goes and buys cars and buys houses and buys clothes. That's who's buying stuff.
Right.
You get rid of the middle class and the rich people, it's over. But the ultra-rich, they're offshore. They're actually the ones selling this monopoly.
Right. You know, the funny thing was many years ago when Obama first got in office, I had said something. I was in Australia, and I was on the radio, and a lot of people took exception to what I said. I said that he was the most divisive president that I've ever seen, and look what's happening right now. There's race wars, there's class wars, you know, there's sexual wars now, there's religious wars, and you know, don't we remember how smooth this guy was when he was saying that, you know, we're going to bring everybody together and he's for change and
hope. His minions would say, thank you, I'm getting a free house, and he wouldn't disagree with them. But they're not getting a free house now. That's what's so amazing about this, Dave, is that when he says, if you have a small business, you didn't build that. That's a quote. I mean, that is a direct attack on the American dream. And everybody I know who's a musician, an artist, a person that gets up at 4 a.m. to make a bricklayer donuts, they know, no, I did this, man. Don't sit there and say I didn't do this.
Get up in the morning and they...
The little bit you get to keep
Yeah.
And then they're telling you didn't do that.
So see, for me, the way that I get any kind of solace out of what's going on right now, because, you know, I've been playing for a long time, and I don't plan on playing another 30 years, although, you know, I would like to be able to play music for the rest of my life. I don't know that I'll be doing it on the road. The pleasure I get out of that is being on stage, looking at people's faces, smiling and stuff like that, and you know, the screeching reality is when you travel and you go back through the airports. When we left here last time, my 14-year-old was groped by the TSA, and I was so mad. I was swearing, and the one very large woman said, "What's that?" And I said, "You heard what I said." And Pam, my wife, grabbed me and she said, "Don't say anything," because she knows that these guys are power drunk and that they probably would have arrested me for just saying something about them groping my 14-year-old. The thing that really is blowing me away is this molecular scanner, this pico scanner, whatever they're talking about. And it's not only here, the Russians have one too. So it's something that's very real. And I read up on that, and it says it's about gunpowder and explosives, and that's what the primary purpose of it is. But it also says that it can read inside of your system and say what kind of medication you're on. So I imagine with this...
It's a total invasion of your Fourth Amendment.
Right. I imagine that what they're going to do is they're going to have a database to cross-reference whether the person that shows up that's got narcotics in his system is under doctor's care or not, or if, you know, they for example, for me, when we're on tour, we're around people who do pyro. And pyro is gunpowder and explosives for the fireworks.
Now you have it, fire and explosions.
So if I shake hands with my pyrotechnician, I'm going to get arrested for being a terrorist because I've got trace elements of gunpowder and explosives on me because there's fireworks going on. On top of the fact that because of the cocaine use and people using dollar bills roll,
it's on everything.
There's traces of cocaine on all money, so anybody touching currency is going to have trace remnants of cocaine on their hands. That's going to show up, and it's just madness, you know, to think that it's getting to this point. I mean, I can handle us having security, but not like this.
It's about making all of us the criminals, but the state is exempt. Look at all the TSA agents that have been caught being convicted pedophiles. They're hiring felons, robbing people, abusing.
Yeah, I saw something the other day. This guy was an artist, and he had a half ounce of weed in his suitcase, and the guy wrote on one of those cards that I get in my suitcases every time I open them, "Come on, son." But they left his herb in there, and the guy tweeted and said, "Can you believe this guy let me off?" And
I saw that. I saw the note. So it's all selectively enforced. And then a woman had a catheter. They ripped that out of her. Colostomy bags.
Oh, my God.
Old World War II vets. People.
Children.
I mean,
handicapped kids.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
It's all a giant power grab. And now they're saying because of the shooting out in Denver, they want TSA in the malls.
Yeah, people will stop going to movies. And you know, if the people that own the theaters are that stupid, they're going to put themselves out of business. You know, and rightly so. If they do that, they deserve to be put out of business.
Yeah, because even though it's a tragedy, 13 dead and 70 plus wounded, that many die every day on the state's highways in Texas. I mean, literally, they're hyping this culture of total fear up. When we talked this morning after the shooting out in Denver, I mean, we discussed your bottom line gut feeling, and most of my listeners agree. I mean, you've got a UN treaty next week. You've got every time they want to pass legislation, they don't have the votes in the Senate. They're a couple shy, and then magically this happens. It's a guy in a mask, and then they catch some other guy who's involved in some government program with brain technology. All they do is drug some guy up, and then like Sirhan, they say he's I mean, what's your gut, Dave, about what happened here?
Well, I'm very, very sorry for the loss of human life, for the people that were at the movie theater, for the victims, and the loss for the families. So I don't want to seem insensitive at all, because if it happened to me or any of my family, I would be outraged.
But they want to know who did it, really.
They do want to know who did it. And the thing is, you got to ask yourself, where do you get flash grenades from?
How do you, because they admit it's a modern theater, those things are sunk in. They only open one way. It's not like it's just an iron hinge. It's gets in the wall and opens. A rhinoceros can't knock those down. Everybody's pointing that out.
Yeah.
How did he knock? They said he knocked the door down.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the actual thing because, you know, we've been out here house hunting, and I saw your tweet this morning, or your text to me this morning, and I thought, oh my God, Alex has lost his mind because you said something about Batman and what happened, and I was like, huh? And then I saw it on the news this morning, and I was mortified. But see,
yeah, my text was like, I think this is staged to pass the UN treaty.
But see, the thing is that I had said something about this whole gun thing, and that I thought it was very cowardly that the Obama administration had used Hillary Clinton to go behind the backs of the American people to get this done in the UN instead of get it done in the U.S., because the people of America won't go for it. One of the reasons that the Japanese didn't push past Pearl Harbor was there was a famous emperor or something that he said that he wasn't going to go to the mainland because behind every blade of grass was an American with a gun. And, you know...
that was Admiral Yamamoto, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just reading something a couple days ago. I think it was Washington had said something about, you know, having... arms is what gives America its teeth. And I can't...
Call them liberty teeth. It gives the teeth of the First Amendment.
Right.
The Second Amendment. You're absolutely right, Dave, and you're quoting Veritas here. The whole thing reeks to high heaven.
Yeah, and again, like I said, you know, I had heard that there were flash grenades that were used.
Yeah.
And the only people that can get those are military and police.
That's what they said. They said there was like multiple guys in black uniforms, and they thought there were multiple shooters, and no one did anything because he was, quote, a cop. And somebody went and opened the door and let him in. At first, they knocked the door down. Let me tell you. And then it's a white guy living in an almost completely black apartment complex, and now his house is booby-trapped. I mean, this thing looks... Look, why does it always happen?
It's sad for the neighbors there because, you know, having your house booby-trapped, people that are near you are going to be hurt, you know. It's just so sad the way the world has become. You know, for me, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and Savior, and I know that you know, there's a big plan. I talked about that in Holy Wars. And, you know, I'm just shaking my head thinking, God, how bad is it going to get? How bad is it really going to get? You know?
Dave, I think this is just the beginning. I think you foresaw it decades ago. I mean, I think this is just the beginning of the...
George Orwell foresaw it decades ago. I got to tell you, when I read 1984, I thought, this is the craziest stuff in the world. You know, this will never happen. And right now, they've got people going back in the books and taking stuff out of the history books to change things. And just like Orwell said in 1984, when the guys were there going back and erasing people ever lived that had gone against the government. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, that's because he'd actually been
a poster here that says Ingsoc, and I knew exactly what that was.
Exactly. He had been a communist and discovered it was all a fraud. So he'd worked for Stalin in Spain. And so that's why he said, well, I couldn't get this published as a nonfiction because so many, you know, Brits in the intelligentsia were socialist. So he said, I got it published as a... you know, fiction book. But no, he'd experienced that type of double think and double speak, and he extrapolated that this is what communism would build if it took over. And is North Korea not the 1984 system? I mean, it's the ultimate expression.
Wow. That's a whole nother show.
Dave, we have talked about so much here tonight, and there's a few other points that I wanted to raise here for you. What do you, I mean, you have the courage to speak out for what you believe, and the media distorts it and stuff, but in the final equation, people know you're for real, and that's why your fans appreciate you. But what do you make of, say, last year, Hank Williams Jr. comes out and criticizes Obama and says, he actually still, you know, the full quote was, both parties are destroying America, we're becoming Nazi Germany. And I'm mad at Obama. But they came out and said, he says Obama is Nazi Germany. What do you make of them getting him kicked off Monday Night Football? By the way, he's selling more records I saw the other day now since that happened.
That's the sweetest revenge of all, success. And, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Hank Williams Jr., not because I don't like him, but it's because I don't really know him. But I did see him on a show the other day playing some music, and you know, I was thinking what it must be like to be somebody in that genre, to be at the top of your game, and then to have someone try and publicly spank you by doing something like that. You know, I didn't think he was the kind of guy that would take that kindly, and that he probably would in some way get his revenge, and success is the best revenge.
Well, that's it. And he's putting out records now just saying, you know what, I'll keep my guns, I'll keep my family, I'll keep my freedom, you can keep your change.
The funny thing, too, when you say keep our guns, with this thing about people, having to give their guns back, all that's going to do is it's going to prompt more illegal gun purchases, and it's going to cause a lot of deaths of law officers and military men and women who are going to be forced to go against the Second Amendment to come and get our guns. And the thing that I appreciate a lot is the oath keepers who have taken the oath to be a military person, a serviceman or woman, which says that they're going to uphold the Constitution, and you can't skip parts of the Constitution. It's not like a smorgasbord where you can just take what you want and leave the rest. The whole thing is the Constitution, not part, not half, not quarters, nothing. So for anybody to expect these men and women to have to actually go against their oath that they took, their oath, everything, their moral fiber, put their word on the line and go out there and risk their life for us, and then come back and maybe potentially kill Americans just because they have firearms, which is our right, that just reeks of I mean, I don't even want to say the word because it's to me it just seems like communism, and I don't want to be like some McCarthyism kind of guy,
No, but when tyranny comes, you've got to recognize it, Dave. And you have incredible courage here. It is the military and police, because I was critical 10 years ago or so before I understood a more sophisticated view. On average, I've met them, as you have. They're really good people.
They're good people. A lot of them are.
And they've been given false paradigms to follow. But now, the fact that they are being trained for gun confiscation, that's finally woke them up. Most of them are actually saying, we're not going to do it. So the tyrants on top, Obama and his controllers, they're trying to get this in place. But here's the deal. No one's going to follow that order. The vast majority.
I don't think so either. And, one of the things about police officers, a lot of people call them pigs. I had two brother-in-laws that were cops. And, they weren't bad cops. If you want to know why cops go bad, watch the movie Serpico. And it's
pressure, peer pressure.
Yeah, peer pressure. And the fact that, you're going to go out and fight crime. And there was one scene in the movie where he was just left to be shot. Oh, I've
interviewed Frank Serpico. He's a listener.
Really?
He's an amazing guy. We just had him on, 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
Well, I watched the movie when I was a kid, and I'm a big Al Pacino fan, and I remember the movie a lot. I remember when I first went to New York, we were kind of talking to people and say, who do you think you are, Serpico? This kind of stuff. But the bottom line is that, my brother-in-laws were good men and they were good cops. And we have so many military men and women that come to Megadeath shows, and, they go like, holy wars, oh man, hey, we got Vic painted on our tank. I got pictures of stealth bombers and stuff like that with our logo on the front, or Vic, the one particular one shows them in a conductor's outfit, and the plane's called Symphony of Destruction. To me, that's very flattering, because when I was a kid, we had, I think it was the Korean War was happening when I was 18, and I put my card in for the Selective Service. I was ready to go. If they would have drafted me, I would have gone. I wasn't a draft dodger. So, I grew up to really respect the men and women who go out and fight for us.
Absolutely. Dave Mustaine, pretty powerful interview here today. I mean, there's so many points to cover. It's our choice, liberty or tyranny. What is the bottom line? If you have to crystallize who Dave Mustaine and Megadeath, Megadeath.com, everything you stand for, what is it?
I'm a Christian man who loves his family, loves his country, and most importantly, loves God. And I'm willing to fight for those things. And I'm willing to share those things with people that would like to know about it. Not willing to get into it with people who don't care about it. I'm not going to defend myself or explain myself. It is what it is.
I agree with that. I found that debating is like pearls before swine. If people want to just, it's like, great, hey, you got your views. I'm not going to fight with you about it.
Well, I got a pig analogy, too. It's like teaching a pig how to sing. It'll never work, and it annoys the pig.
All right. Okay, folks, that is about 60% of the interview. We're going to premiere all of it in one piece tonight. You heard most of it here, but there'll be another 15 minutes or so tonight on Infowars Nightly News. I was going to play the rest of it here, but we just had some big breaking news. We just got the UN text to the treaty. It's confirmed. It's gotten almost no attention. It's been out for 2 days. ladies and gentlemen, it does say they're going to ban individual guns, and it's got a deceptive wording in there where they talk about states have the individual right to self-defense. That means countries, but not individuals. America is public enemy number one to the globalists. They want to destroy this republic. You can't have America being free when the rest of the world are slaves. All right, again, we'll air the rest of the Dave Mustaine interview tonight on Infowars Nightly News. And by tomorrow, we'll post it for everybody up at Infowars.com. If you're a radio listener and want to see it. Yes, let rats through the streets. We are transmitting worldwide. During the breaks, Aaron came running in this morning, and we've since confirmed it is the leaked treaty, and it got no attention. We'd seen earlier copies that have similar language. We had Bob Dacey in last week going over it. And I've now had a chance to look at it, and it is the current draft, and it rocked me because it's got what was in earlier drafts, and it's expanded, and it says they're going to ban individual guns. In fact, and it says that, but don't worry, individual states will have a right to self-defense. That means state actors, government. So it's big, and Obama plans to sign it, and he's trying to get everybody in line with it. We need to take your semi-autos. I mean, we played the clips earlier. The clip's up at Infowars.com. Obama claims Second Amendment about hunting, and he says you shouldn't be able to have semi-autos. They want to ban us so we can be their slaves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just had that premiere of that interview I did Friday evening here in studio with Dave Mustaine. We just aired that today. We aired about 70% of it. I'll play it all commercial-free tonight on the Nightly News, uninterrupted. 7 o'clock Central, prisonplanet.tv. Coming up for the balance of the hour, a really powerful book, and he's got to interview a lot of the lawyers that we've had on the show, breaking down the complete and total fraud of what's going on with clouded titles. And they're even, you've seen the case of them taking homes they don't even own or never even had a clouded title for. So that's a new book we're carrying at InfoWarsShop.com. If you're having problems or you know, they're foreclosing on you, most of the time they don't have the original title, and they've sold it over and over again. Sometimes they're taking houses, as you know, that are even paid off. This is invaluable because this is what's bringing down the world economy right here. This is at the heart of it, clouded titles. And we're going to have Dave Krieger on with us here in studio coming up in the next segment. We've had a lot of other lawyers and people on, but he's a journalist from out here in Austin, Texas, and so that's why I wanted to get him on, because I think he's written the best book on the subject and talked to all the experts and goes over all the code. And this is what I've been looking for, is not just to have a lawyer on and then talk about it, and then you've got to go get that lawyer, which is great. And at least it's something. It's best to know this yourself, because most lawyers don't know this. So there's a small supply, from what I've seen in the last few years, of lawyers that understand this. They're going to big seminars. They're trying to learn. He also teaches classes on that. So we're going to be talking about this is a way to really fight back against the globalist. They're trying to get state attorney generals to change laws to let them retroactively engage in this fraud. We're going to talk about the big picture when we come back, but available at InfoWarsShop.com. And somebody I've got to get on with us, this book was always on print on demand. Now it's been expanded, and Tex Mars has written a foreword to it. It is the best and most comprehensive book on Bohemian Grove, and it's written by Mike Hansen, my old camera guy, who basically, you know, put all this together. And I never promoted it because it cost so much, because it was print on demand. You know, this should be a less expensive book. It's a big book, but by print on demand, it's so expensive. Well, Tex has now printed up a bunch of these, so we have them. Mike finally got it published by Tex Mars, big publishing house, which is one of the most all-time selling authors of all time. Do you know that about Tex Mars? These guys sold like 100 million books or something. It's pretty crazy. But side issue or something like that. I mean, he used to write the armed service training manuals that they would take to take the test for like decades, so that's why he's so many in print. But I'm now ranting off into a factoid. Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy, Mike Hansen, forward by Tex Mars, is now available at InfoWarsShop.com. If you want all the backstory, all the details, all the little factoids about our infiltration and so much more, there is no other book like it. There is no other book like it, and that's what we carry at InfoWarsShop.com. We carry the things, there's nothing else like it. We have the guests that are the best, the most informed. We have the researchers, the economists that have the best track records. We are about reality. Mainstream media could get it right if they wanted to most of the time. But there's an agenda there. They're not... CNBC doesn't report, false financial news the majority of the time, as they've been proven to do, getting it wrong because they're idiots. They're zigging when they're telling you to zag. This is a sucker system, and we don't like it. We don't like scammers. We don't like frauds, and so we're here to promote and sell things that then support our operation to keep reaching out to others and creating a platform for folks like our guest that's coming up. So, Clouded Titles at InfoWarsShop.com and Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy, Mike Hansen, forward by Tex Mars. This is just out, this new edition, available at InfoWarsShop.com, or call 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or you can also just give us a call, as I said, at that number. But we also have some other numbers posted there on the website, or write to us at P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. Straight ahead, the bankers, they're not just getting trillions in bailouts. They're stealing houses. We'll be right back to break it down. Stay with us, and I'll have some breaking news on the UN gun treaty. It's ultra-massive. Aaron Dykes, for 20 minutes during the breaks, has been running up to me saying, please, this is so important. I've written this article. What headline do you want? Because they usually do their own headlines, but this was so important. I was struggling the last hour, but the last 20 minutes we were in brainstorms during the break. What headline do we give it? The magnitude, how incredible it is. Our problem is never being sensational enough. Reality is so sensational. How do we break through this Berlin Wall of disinformation? How do we... The UN treaty is now out. And they're all over the news going, it says individual rights. Well, the final treaty came out. I showed you last Friday in studio with Bob Dacey the last 3 versions going back to 2001. 2001, July 7th, where they got it all officially, ratified at the UN to then go to the states, the countries, they call them states. And then the 2005 one and the 2009 one. And guess what? We got the final draft. And it's got notes in there by the French about how, we need this to be binding because we're going to totally ban guns now. They've already restricted them. I mean, it is muy bad. And it says individual rights of states to defend themselves. That's how the clauses are. Oh, it is so wild. And folks, this is what's crazy. This was leaked 2 days ago. Good job to Examiner and others that picked up on it. We went, checked. It's true. It's real. We're breaking it now because when Infowars breaks it, it's really out there. And we went over it. We checked it. Turns out it was put on a UN website. They'll kind of put these out in the back channel. That's how Lord Moncton is always finding it. And I do not have a headline. Aaron is sitting in there. He went with bombshell, UN caught infringing on individual rights and gun treaty. And I guess that's it. But I mean, they keep saying we won't take your individual guns, but everywhere the UN goes, they confiscate guns, Rwanda and other places. They say that, I mean, my mind is spinning right now because everywhere the globalists are in control, New York, Chicago, total gun ban. The cities they control, Paris, total gun ban. England, almost total gun ban. You can have them locked up at a gun club where there's cops there when you get them out to shoot at a shooting range. And then royalty can get special permits or whatever to go hunting. I mean, it's virtually impossible. And they're trying that here. And Obama came out and said, yeah, get rid of semi-autos. He's got all these Republicans calling for it. Bill Kristol on Fox News, Rupert Murdoch. I mean, yes, if you didn't see that, look it up. It's happening. You didn't think they'd pass socialist health care. It's here. It's happening. I mean, they say the #1 terror threat's returning veterans. I mean, people didn't believe that document when I got it until they admitted it was real. Tyranny is crazy. The TSA sticking their hands down your pants is crazy. We're going to go to our in-studio guest, who we had on last week, but the shooting broke, so we moved him to today, and now this is breaking. What headline do I give this? Then we're going to move to our guest, because this is a maximum alert. We got to tweet this out. We need everybody to get this out to everyone. This is so important right now. Bombshell, UN caught infringing on individual rights and gun treaty. I want it red linked. I have to multitask here, folks. As you know, we do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff here on air. What do we have? What headline? What headline? What headline? I know it'll just come to me in a moment. It's up at Infowars right now, but that just doesn't. They were caught in treachery. They were caught lying. Let me ask, got a fellow journalist who I'll introduce in a moment, Dave Krieger, here, best author. What do you call it when the UN says, don't worry, it isn't about your guns, but the UN's always said they don't believe individuals can own guns, and then the treaty comes out, and it says governments can have them, but you can't, individual states, but it says individuals can't. I mean, what do you call that? A giant hoax? You know, UN caught in giant lie, leaked treaty does ban guns? I mean, how do you address this so people get the level of this?
Well, it's normally mass confusion. I mean, they don't understand what their rights are and what they're not. A lot of this is subterfuge, especially...
I know, but what headline would you give this? What headline would you give this?
You know, it's basically UN hypocrisy, you know, plagues America. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with... All right, well, I want to properly... massive gun grab.
I'm going to come up with a thing during the next break. I'm just going to shelve this for folks. Maximum alert. Get this article out to everybody. It's so important. We'll just post it at Prison Planet with the other, because headlines are half of it. I mean, UN treachery, UN caught in deception, UN caught in massive deception, gun treaty, restricts individual guns. I mean, how do you say it?
No way, no other way too.
I mean, that's why I'm so wound up.
Sure.
Okay, let me just stop right there. David Krieger is a former major radio market news reporter, well, 590 AM, one of our affiliates, news director, television news reporter, anchorman, and investigative journalist who has won national and state news awards from Associated Press broadcasters. Dave is a former member of Radio Television News Directors Association. I'm not going to go through his whole bio. He currently serves as a paralegal and legal research analyst for Wade Critchen, an attorney in Dallas, one of the big dogs exposing the mirrors and all these corrupt things with the big banks. And the reason we've got him here today is, you know, I've had a lot of lawyers on the show. People know that. People know I've had a lot of lawyers on the show, and they've done a great job at, you know, fighting and beating the banks that come take houses they don't even own, or they foreclose on you through fraud and then don't even have the deed. We're going to break down the basics here and recap it, but you got to call the lawyer. You got to engage them. There's websites, but they're not that clear. There's all this stuff out there. This is one of the biggest frauds in history. But his book goes through all the documents, all the info. It's the latest edition. It goes over it all. Clouded titles. It's available at InfoWarsShop.com. You support his work, our work. But the point is, everybody who's a homeowner needs this, because you've heard about them, like in Florida, the famous case last year, headline, Bank of America foreclosed on. And the police came because they'd taken $1 million house they didn't own. They never had a deed to, been paid for cash a decade before. And they wouldn't follow the court's ruling to pay the people back. You know, that happened. So you've heard about them taking houses that were paid off. You've heard about them selling it and then coming. I had Bank of America buy my loan on a house I had a decade ago. It's a decade ago. This has been going on for a long time. And say, we're foreclosing unless you pay us what's that first money you put in to take care of sales, the property tax?
Well, no, that's your ad valorem property taxes that are paid to the county.
Okay,
so that county tax lien.
Yeah, that had been paid in, and they just said it wasn't there when we got the house, even though it was like $3,000 or something. And they were going to take the house over that till I had lawyers get involved. But the point is, the average family doesn't know. But anyways, I'm ranting. This book could save lives, save families, because we're in a war right now. Describe to people how you discovered this, all the lawyers you've interviewed for the book, what you've seen in court, and what's happening, because I talked about this 10 years ago, that they were taking houses without deeds, and people didn't believe it. Now it's out in the open.
Basically, Alex, the way my whole game plan started, I broke my foot. Literally broke my foot, turned it upside down at the instep, and I was laid up in a cast for 9 months, and I started doing gobs and gobs of research and spent 12 hours a day on the internet, glued to what was going on. I cashed out of my last mortgage in 2006. I'm currently mortgage-free. And, you know, the one thing I can say about if I wanted to sell my house, I can convey clear title. And that's something that I look at other scenarios, and this is one of the reasons why I've been developing these courses, is because I actually teach other people to do what I do, because a lot of people have lost their jobs. I've got realtors that can't sell houses because there's issues with them. Realtors are afraid to get sued. Brokers are afraid to get sued. And
bottom line, describe the fraud. Describe what happened.
Well, normally what happens is that when this property goes into the MERS system, and they've admitted this. The former CEO of MERS, R.K. Arnold, admitted this in an article that he wrote basically saying that they split the deed from the note, and the note goes off into Wall Street and it gets securitized. Well, we have basically used the assumptive reasoning that the chain of title does not match the chain of custody of the note. And when you see them going off in two different directions and they come into court, or they attempt to foreclose non-judicially, which is basically putting a notice in the paper, possibly not even noticing the client has absolutely no idea how to fight these things, and that's one of the reasons why I started on this. And
they now admit it's pure fraud, where they've sold the mortgage 10, 20 times sometimes, over and over again, defrauding those that bought it. The original house purchase is just the beginning of it. And I see these cases, though, where they're even taking houses where they're paid off. I mean, exactly. This is a level of just viciousness where they were never even buying a fake deed. They weren't even connected, and Bank of America comes and takes it.
Well, we actually have cases where the investor came in and actually bought the property, and 2 months later, the bank comes in and sends Safeguard out, and they clean the guy's house out, take all his heirlooms, lock the doors, winterize the toilets. The guy paid cash. We've got another case where the homeowner bought 20 acres and a house, and that homeowner got a special warranty deed. The title company failed to do a run-up, which is basically, let's check the entire chain of title to make sure that the people that say that they're conveying this property legally own it. And so here we find out that they didn't actually convey, and actually they conveyed themselves. They quit claim the property to themselves for all apparent reasoning. When you look at this document, it's like, wait a minute, MERS is party, the first part? Well, they can't do that. They're bankruptcy remote.
And again, this is just a fraudulent computer system where there's no judge, juries, courts, courthouses, filings. They just declare in their magic computer they own everything.
That's what they do. And I mean, we have no idea.
Just like derivatives, just like everything. It's total la-la land, but they have the military behind them.
Well, and the problem with all of this is that when they come in and we've actually had situations where the military has showed up on the front lawn, SWAT teams have showed up on the front lawn to a company because they got some word. We had a guy that was evicted from his apartment in California, as you probably were aware, where they actually filled the apartment with CS gas and then ignited it and burned the guy to a crisp. And all it was an eviction notice, and the guy actually pulled his gun on and shot the deputy and shot the locksmith that was breaking in. So, you know, all of these things, basically, it's a...
Yeah, well, they burn people out on purpose now. That's the big trick. They pump in flammable CS, then torch you. You know,
exactly.
To make sure foreign banks can take a house they don't own, you know.
Well, this has happened a lot, and this is one of the reasons why I put the book out, is because what you're seeing now is homeowners exposed to double liability after the sale.
And why do they do this particularly to Americans? I know it happens some in Europe. Are we just known as the ultimate galactic chumps, that this is the place where people just roll over to anything?
Well, this all started out basically in the Clinton area with everybody can own a house. I mean, home ownership was a big deal. And so from what we're seeing from all the research, you know, starting from the Clinton area moving forward, you know, they're basically saying everybody needs to own a house, and the banks capitalized on this, and they basically took money from our 401ks that we basically...
Well, yeah, the banks were running Clinton. They got rid of Glass-Steagall.
They're in the middle of it.
Exactly. Let's break down the fraud and why this book is so important. I mean, you've got all the files, the documents, how to do it, what's been successful, the precedents, but it's easy to read. And let me tell you, they're like vampires. This is like a big cross when they see this book. It's clouded titles available right now at InfoWarsShop.com. We'll be back with Dave Krieger straight ahead. Dave Krieger's our guest. I am so wound up over the gun treaty. Bombshell text of UN treacherous treaty leaked. It does plan to restrict your guns. It's up there at Infowars.com right now, red linked. Powerful article by Aaron Dykes with all the proof, their own admissions. He even went and found it on the UN website. This is confirmed because they weren't, you know, releasing the latest one. Obama's set to sign it today or sometime next week. They haven't said. Now, Dave Krieger, break down how big this is. The amount of money we're talking about, all the lawyers you've interviewed for this. I've heard you on other shows. I've heard those lawyers on. We've had some of them on. The magnitude of this and where you see it all going. And because, you know, a few years ago they talked about stopping this fraud, but instead the attorney generals are getting in line to help the banks continue this.
Well, the problem is that you've got Eric Holder and Lanny Brewer that were former attorneys with the law firm of Covington and Burling, who actually issued the opinion order legitimizing MERS and MERS Corp. So when you have that kind of a background going on, and I mean, we've researched a lot of these scenarios, the bigger problem that you have with deeds and what's going on in the MERS system is that, you know, you may own title to property, but then MERS comes in by contract and they basically take over everything that the lender does as the lender's agent. And MERS, in many instances, has been ruled, like in the Kessler case in Kansas, as a straw man. Now, that doesn't sound very good to me. It sounds more like a snake oil salesman. And so, you know, one of the things that bothered me about it when I first started researching MERS was how it obfuscated all the truth and the facts from the homeowners. They had absolutely no idea who owned their loan. And as a matter of fact, Robert Pratt, in the hearings in Washington on March 15th, and Mark Dan, the former Ohio Attorney General, and I were on stage in Seattle lecturing to a group of homeowners, and that was preceded the Bain versus MERS and Selkowitz versus MERS et al. Cases, where Robert Pratt from Fulbright and Jaworski, who's a Minneapolis attorney representing all the defendants in MERS, basically said that it's a fallacy to think that borrowers need to know who owns their mortgage, who owns their note. It's insanity. And MERS, since this whole thing started, has conveyed nearly 30 million titles, reconveyed 30 million titles, and in our estimation, subjected as many homeowners to double liability, because there are people coming back, as you said, Alex, before, and kudos to this, that you recognize this. They're coming back in and they're foreclosing on homes that we know damn well were paid off. The bigger picture is homeowners are totally taken off guard, and even the ones that don't know, that think they have a paid off mortgage, 2 out of 10 homeowners that are contacting my firm these days aren't in default. And they're saying, look, I've got MERS on my deed of trust or mortgage. What do I do? Well, you best look at your chain of title, because MERS affects over 70 million pieces of property in America.
And here's a headline. HSBC fined $27.5 million for money laundering. They were using their customers' bank accounts to run drug money through. We're talking about $300+ billion found in Wells Fargo. Didn't get in trouble. They paid like a $110 million fine. Folks can look that up. These are organized crime syndicates.
Exactly.
I mean, this is the mafia, folks, and they're saying, we don't care if you've had that house 20 years. We're taking it, even when they never even had a connection to it. I mean, this is just incredible how criminal they are.
Well, when you look at the fact that the DOJ is in negotiations with Credit Suisse and that they basically were laundering money through the Iranian state banks into this country as investments, and then they use that money basically as the middleman, and this is a real big picture. People don't understand that these investors, when they came in, all these 401ks, these municipalities, they bought these credit default, or rather not credit default swaps, but they bought the collateralized debt obligations thinking that they were legitimate, but they were actually structured to fail. What we're finding is that these documents, all of these loan papers...
Oh, yeah, that came out in Congress. They designed it to fail, knowing it would do this. Then they get bailed out, and they sold the fraud to people. Oh, it's incredible.
Well, not even to mention the LIBOR scandal and the fact that they're now admitting that this is what they based the target...
These people are beyond criminal. They are madmen. And then they're going to try to use the implosion as the wave they're going to ride into total dictatorship. I mean, it's pure genius, really.
Well, it is, and the thing is that they're using 401k money. They're using other people's money, putting themselves in MERS as the middleman, clouding the title. And I mean, I think this is an afterthought. It became very obvious to me January 7, 2011, when the Ibanez case came out of Massachusetts, and U.S. Bank, here they are, you know, the banks supposedly know what they're doing, and people would think, well, you know, why shouldn't we trust the banks? Well, they did this from 2003 to 2008, and we've got inside sources at Chicago Title telling us that 1/3 of the properties in Kansas City alone that were mortgaged and financed between those 2 years, 03 and 08, are uninsurable. You cannot get title insurance.
And
on 1/3 of the property
means you can't sell them. You can't have
exactly. You cannot sell them.
Unbelievable. And here's what I've been told by top stockbrokers. Well, it's admitted in the news. They've taken the 40+ trillion in bailout just in the U.S. that they got from the Federal Reserve, not just the 800-something billion, but the open window, and they've leveraged it back into derivatives and are accelerating this. I mean, they're doing all the same tricks again.
Yes, they are. And as long as this remains unregulated, they're going to continue to do so. And they're also doing resecuritization. And Fannie and Freddie are...
All right, stay there. I want to break down what the book goes over and how people can fight back. You got to get it. Clouded Titles. Every homeowner has got to have this book. Infowarshop.com. Well, we're firing the bat spotlight up into the sky right now. Everybody that wants to defend the Second Amendment, it just went up at Infowars.com. Bombshell. UN gun treaty does ban guns. I think we just need to add, I finally have the full headline. Bombshell. Leaked UN gun treaty does ban guns. That's it. Add that one word, Aaron, and you're done. And I want everybody to get this right now, and I want to ram it out with that headline at twitter.com/RealAlexJones. I want it the top story on our main Facebook. Everybody like that channel. Everybody retweet. Now we have got to get this out so that they can't use the mass shooting to get the few votes they need in the Senate to ram this through. Obama is going to sign it. We had NRA board member, former Congressman Bob Barr on yesterday about this, and it could pass the Senate. Regardless, Obama has said he's going to operate outside of Congress and try to order the ATF to do it. Like they said last year, they were going to ban most shotguns outside of law. You're like, but that's illegal. These are criminals, ladies and gentlemen. When I call them criminals all day, there's so many crimes they commit, and these are just the minions of the criminals, the foreign banks. The 6 mega banks have announced in publications everywhere that we've read on air and played clips of. Just earlier today, we played a clip of it. In fact, guys, cue up the fact that the banks say we're their slaves. Cue that up for me. I want to play that here. This is why they want our guns, because they're getting ready to try to take everybody's firearms. First, they're going to register them in. They're going to ban importation and sale. This is the plan, because this is a mafia. These are brazen, wild criminals. This is a white-collar takeover. Here's the clip where they explain, through the fraud, through the derivatives, they're Ponzi scheme operators that gave themselves unlimited fake money, got us to sign on to it, too big to fail, making them our owners through fraud. It's that simple. Here it is.
So mostly what they do is hold summits.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Urio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are, because if we
and
look
he
at the
goes on, of
economic
course
data,
we're
there's
slaves to
nothing
global
you
government
say
run by
about
banks.
So
and then the other 3 guests all agree we're slaves. It's wonderful. And I can show you Financial Times, all of it. They've created the fraud. They've gotten us to sign on to it. And now they're saying they own us when they should all be in jail. Okay? Laundering drugs, owning the aircraft, running the cocaine. The biggest ones. They run it all. They run it all, folks. They run the police, the military, everything. And it's all a fraud. Now I'm going to give you the floor, because this book is powerful. We're going to have you back for a 2-hour special. David Krieger is our guest. He wrote Clouded Titles. He works at he was a media guy for a long time, TV, radio, but he works at a law firm as a paralegal, helped put this book together. It's really, I think, the best book out there that really has the latest info. The lawyers he quotes in here are people we've had on that have been successful, but they're too busy to write books. I mean, am I right, basically, Dave, in saying that's kind of why this book came out?
It is in part. Alex, you know, we have attorneys buying this book by the case and actually giving it to their clients who are in trouble and telling them, look, you need to read this.
You have lawyers come into your seminars.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we did a CLE that was sponsored by the State Bar of Texas on quiet title actions and chain of title assessments, which is what I teach in separate workshops. And I've got one coming up in Chicago on the 18th and 19th of August that you probably, if you want to go to cloudedtitles.com, you can actually download a PDF of the flyer and register and sign up online to attend it. There's extremely limited seating. We give you a 200-page workbook. We actually show you the kinds of things that we're digging up in the land records. And counties right now that are contacting my firm asking us to come in to audit their land records to determine how many documents were fraudulent. And I don't know if you knew this, in Texas, Alex, we've got 37.101 of the media, or the penal code. And the penal code, it basically says that you cannot use fraudulent documents to deprive a homeowner of their property. It is a state jail felony. And when I had a meeting with a Southern County district attorney last October on Halloween, he told me we don't have the white-collar division, you know, the able number.
No. Under the last 3 presidents, they've gotten rid of the white-collar divisions at the federal level, basically. They've cut it down to nothing. Because the criminals now run everything.
Virtually. And the bigger problem is that if I told the district attorney, it only takes 1 case to send a message. You prosecute 1 and get 1 conviction, you send a message. And there are some sheriffs out there, like Chris Conley, the high sheriff in New Hampshire, who has reached out to me, and we've been in communication by email, and he's asking my firm to assist in determining how many documents are recorded in the land records that are fraudulent, that are being utilized to deprive homeowners of their property. This is a huge thing, and this is one of the things that we teach in the seminars is how to spot these things so that if you ever go into court with an attorney and the bank produces some sort of document, the attorney's well trained enough to be able to spot what the problems are within seconds and be able to identify this and object to certain things on here. All we come up with basically in here is the suspect documents. It's up to the attorneys to bring this thing in, move it into discovery, build enough of a case where the case will rest on its merits and they can sustain a motion for summary judgment.
Yeah, they're grabbing the low-hanging fruit because they hit families, poor people, but also even wealthy people. And they're just like, but I own the house. This isn't just people who are going into foreclosure. I mean, they're going after everybody.
Exactly, and we need case law. We need good case law out there, and that's what the attorneys want. There are attorneys out here, despite, you know, what a lot of people think, that they really care.
And there have been some victories, though. I've had some of the lawyers on that are beating them a lot.
We had an attorney in Little Rock that they put a mortgage loan officer on the stand who was not licensed, who was not bonded, who admitted he was a convicted felon. When they put him on the stand, the guy couldn't even make a mortgage loan, and the judge sat there and screamed at the guy on the stand and said, you lie, and you're going to pay. You're going to pay this man $200,000, and if you don't, I'm referring this to the district attorney for prosecution. So this is, I mean...
But see, this is organized crime. These people should be going to a hard time.
Well, they should be, but, you know, when you've got the DOJ and everything being manipulated by MERS and the banks, it makes it very difficult. And we know this is going on. It's just hard to prove. We're not to that stage of the game.
Well, let me tell you, somebody tries to... Well, I tell you what, I've had enough of this. I have just absolutely had enough of their crimes. And hearing the stories of where they're even taking people's farms that they bought 15, 20 years ago. It's not just houses. Commercial real estate. I mean, this is just across the board.
Exactly. Or they do things like in Ibanez where they foreclose on a house and they don't record the assignment until after the foreclosure. I mean, that's just plain arrogance on the part of the banks.
I want to add, if you go to InfoWarsShop.com, we have the book Out of the Gates discounted, $10 off the regular price. We also have a free citizen rule book and bumper stickers with all orders, and your purchases support our entire media operation. But this is one of those books that I couldn't put down because I've already done so much research on this. I was like, knew that, knew this, knew that, but didn't know that, checked it, accurate. This is I mean, like you said, the lawyers don't have the time to sit there and represent everybody. But with this book, you're not the little gazelle out there. You're more like a rhinoceros, and the lions aren't going to go after you first. They're going to eat the little, bug-eyed gazelle first. They're going to go after what they see as weak. And I mean, what happens when people do? I mean, because I've been seeing some victories. What are the big banks? The crime syndicates operating as banks. What is the global mafia, the global government mafia? I mean, go over some of the ways they're losing, some of the court cases where they're getting defeated.
Well, a lot of these, especially in Ohio, with Mark Dan, who is now a foreclosure defense attorney, with Dan Doberdruck and Welland, he actually goes into court, and he said now he's winning so many cases, it's almost redundant. And I've looked at his work, and he says that's not even the best stuff.
But then people right next to him that didn't know how to defend, they're losing.
Exactly. And the danger of you going in pro se, if you tried to fight this thing in court yourself, and this is what if I can't say anything else to your listeners, is there are attorneys out there who know this stuff. Do not attempt to go in because you'll get out-procedured. The banks, their attorneys are paid to win. They are paid to do whatever it takes to win. And in certain states like New York, they now have to sign an affidavit attesting to the fact that the information that they're setting forth is true. And if it's not, they can get disbarred and they can end up in jail. And so a lot of these court cases are sitting there for years. I've actually authored over a dozen quiet title actions that are in court that attorneys are using. So I'm actually behind the scenes, when I'm not auditing land records, I'm actually writing pleas.
I talked to a lawyer whose brother is, let's just say, number 2 at one of the big 6 banks. And he told me like 2 years ago, he said he told his brother, this is all a big scam, and I'm going to probably have to go to court against you. And I'm not going to get into what happened, but the point is that that's what this has come down to.
Well, and the thing is that, a lot of these CLEs and CODA workshops that we're doing, CODA is an acronym for Chain of Title Assessment. We basically teach you how to go through, start with a warranty deed and move forward, and go through each document step by step and compare the documents, compare how they're indexed. It's not only what's there.
Sure. But I mean, it's hard, but there's not that many lawyers from what I've read, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and people I've talked to who actually know how to win, because this is all so new. It's been going on for 15 years or so, but now people, first they just couldn't believe it. Now that they're looking, oh, it's true. There are more and more lawyers that are learning this and winning. They're they're reading your book. They're going to these seminars. A lot of folks are out there educating people. But I do know folks that that are pro se just because they can't find a lawyer in their area who are having some victories as well.
There have been a few. A lot of them have been by default where the bank doesn't even answer. We had a quiet title action in Houston where MERS came back 6 months later in the Nancy Groves case and basically says, oh, well, wait a minute, we're MERS. And the District Court of Appeals in Houston in the 14th DCA said, nope, you don't get a do-over. You didn't answer it when you're supposed to, so end of story. And she quieted title in her property. I have done quiet title actions personally on properties I've owned, but those are tax deed sales. But there is a significant tax deed sale in Missouri in the Bellestreet versus Ocwen case where Bellestreet came forward with a tax deed and Ocwen and MERS came in and MERS said, well, we conveyed title to Ocwen and so Ocwen gets to come in and have standing. And the court said, no, MERS doesn't own the note. And what people don't understand about MERS, they're bankruptcy remote. By their own admission, they're a shell company. They basically were set up to do nothing but track transfers and mortgages.
Yeah, instead of this being done at the courthouse, and you've got to have bureaucracy and companies, because this is important. You got to keep track of this. It was a great system, worked one of the best in the world.
Exactly.
And now it's fried, and the feds and the state's answer is, well, this wasn't really legal, but we'll try to make it legal and just let it keep going. Well, that'll destroy total confidence in the system.
Exactly. And see, this is why I'm so glad that that Oregon and Washington State are now, their Supreme Courts are now considering whether MERS is a valid beneficiary, because an Oregon Court of Appeals in the NIDA versus GMAC case just ruled that MERS is not a valid beneficiary in the state of Oregon. Immediately, somebody went to the chief judge of the U.S. District Court in Oregon and had her certify to the Washington Supreme Court as to whether or not MERS is a valid beneficiary. So they held off the final appellate ruling in favor of what the Supremes are going to say. March 15th of this year, we had MERS counsel in, the same MERS counsel as was in Oregon, and when they asked him on the Bain and Selkowitz cases, who actually owns this mortgage loan now, and the attorney for MERS didn't even know who owned the notes.
Yeah, let's talk about Bain. Which is, I mean, I've looked at it. It did go in. It did screw people over. It is a predatory operation. And again, folks, I'm no Obama supporter. I'm just facts are facts. Very predatory. Tell folks about those cases.
Well, you know, with Bain and Selkowitz, like anything else, and their attorney, especially Stephen Jones, Selkowitz's counsel, I love the way that man argued. He had a passion. You know, when he went in, it basically is like when the courts asked him, have you been told or have you gotten paperwork yet as to who owns your client's mortgage? And they said, no. This case has been going on for 2 years. It's part of the obfuscation. Anything that MERS can do, and they don't like me, by the way. They tried to have me thrown out of a federal settlement conference in Kansas City a year ago, February, you know, when they found out who I was. Fortunately, the judge gave me permission to be there, and he told the attorney, enough's enough. You know, when we got into the jury room where we were sequestered, I gave him a copy of the book. He started laughing. He knows. A lot of judges know. A lot of judges like Judge James McBride in Fort Worth in the North District of Texas, they're making a stand and they're actually ruling Carpenter versus Longan, which is an 1872 court case, which says that if you split the deed from the note, which they do in securitization, the note is a nullity.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, listen, the fraudsters have disconnected real assets from reality in their fraud and attached it to their derivatives cloud that's conservatively over 1.5 quadrillion worldwide. They've sold all these governments these consolidated mortgages, and then the insurance and the derivatives and all the crud on it. There is no way to ever fix this from all the experts I've talked to. Correct me if I'm wrong from your deep research. And so where does it go? They're not going to stop. They're going to try to ride this out. They're getting martial law ready all over the world and even telling people that. So what's the army going to do when all their mamas lose their house? What are they going to do when the values all plunge? When they just destroy everything because we won't arrest these Ponzi scheme operators? Arrest them. You either arrest them and write off all the derivatives, or it's the end of civilization.
Well, I feel sorry for the service guys that are over there fighting for our country, and they come back here and find out they don't have a home anymore.
And then, by the way, everything's collapsing. Go point guns at citizens.
Exactly. And that's a problem I think that they're going to have mentally. I think their conscience is going to eat away at them.
So what's the time frame on this?
Oh, it's going to take a century to clean up this mess.
But, I mean, is it going to keep just rotting slowly, just, you know, into this slow depression, or is it an implosion? I mean, because all I know is government's digging in, getting Army tanks and armored vehicles and machine guns, and the Secretary of the Army says, we're going to put a brigade in every city. I mean, it's all happening now. They're going operational. Is it World War III with Iran? What is it? Because they're acting like everything's going to, implode. And I'm seeing a lot of economists and people that have looked at this, They're saying that it's going to come to a head soon, is my point. Is this what they're getting ready for?
I think that this is an ongoing process. If they're going to come in and take property, and we're actually looking at now where I got to love the counties in the states. They're actually looking at taxes, and they're looking and saying, well, wait a minute, you're not upkeeping, Mr. Banker. You own this property, or so you claim to. You filed a deed in the land records, but there's weeds growing up, and we're having to mow. We have liens. Tell you what, let's just take this property by eminent domain. And so the county is actually turning around. The counties are starting to research this stuff. You're going to see.
Yeah, I saw though where they're giving the police and people basically a free house.
Yeah, this bothers me.
It should go. No, this is Road Warrior, man.
It is.
It's got to go back to the original person. They've at least got some claim if they're going to do this eminent domain.
Well, and that's a problem because if they don't do it properly.
But no, so you've seen that where they're like basically giving the city people the houses now, though.
They have done that, and I've seen cases where the judges who actually ruled against the homeowner in court were seen later on video walking around that person's property they just allowed to be foreclosed on.
No, God help us. Let me tell you, folks, you got to dig in. I'm telling you, the criminals have taken over. They're going to steal everything. I'm telling you, imagine if this fraud, all the big banks are laundering the drug money and even running the aircraft. I mean, that's come out, Bloomberg. I mean, what else is going on we don't know about? Can you imagine, Dave?
Well, the thing is homeowners can be proactive. When they go to the mortgage table, they can say, you know what, I'm not going to sign a MERS mortgage anymore. I'm not going to advertise. Oh,
yeah, they have little forms now saying, when you agree to sign this, we can change things later. What's that?
Exactly. Well, I mean, they basically have all sorts of little waivers and indemnifications now. I've seen some.
But that won't cover fraud, though, as you know in contracts.
That's right. But the problem that we're seeing is, and I've looked at several of these are indemnification agreements. In fact, Bloomberg called me one afternoon and faxed me a copy of one that they received from Wells Fargo. And they said, well, I don't see where it says indemnification. I said, look down at paragraph 22 on page 4. First question to ask yourself, why did they bury it way back here? Because the investor buying that REO doesn't have time to read it. He just wants, like every other homeowner out there.
Incredible.
What's the keys?
It's clouded titles available at InfoWarsShop.com. Get it. It's info weapon. Go to cloudedtitles.com to find out about some of the seminars he's putting on to really drill down into this. It was an ebook, but this is a brand new edition, a lot longer, a lot of the latest cases and documents. And again, it is available right now at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Knowledge is power. The people perish for lack of knowledge. And it's just like yesterday when I was talking about InfoWarsTeam.com and those little RX cards where you can get 15 at the lowest end to 80+% off. And we've been testing it. It's a card. You just put your name on it, prints right there. It's got a code on it that accesses discounts on across-the-board prescription drugs. Congress has made them do that because we pay the highest price for those. So they have to have that program, but they're not going to tell you. You've got to know how to access it. So InfoWarsRx.com. So, yes, that's what we're doing here is selling and promoting things that fund our media operation to fight the tyranny. Whereas the globalists just come with the government and steal your money through taxes to give it to themselves as bailouts, which they planned from the beginning to implode. Now, Dave Krieger, I'm going to get you back in for a full 2 hours one day to talk for 30 minutes and then take an hour and a half of calls to talk about the horror story so people really get this. But anybody can just type in, homes being taken, that were paid for, and you'll see CNN, Fox News. But they report it like, well, they had their house taken. It was theirs, but somebody just put a fake. They're even putting it in there when they never even had a connection to it. It's just pure fraud. Do we know how that's happening? Because, I mean, I guess if I was an insider, I go to Mirrors, I say on this website database, I own the state capitol. And then do I show up and I call the SWAT team and I go, the state capitol's mine? And they go, yes, sir. And I'm given the state capitol. I just say it's mine. And then the Austin SWAT team will go take it for me? I mean, doesn't quite work that way unless you're a bank. The problem is with the banks, Alex, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is. So it wouldn't work like that for me, but if I was a mega bank, the Austin SWAT team would assault the Capitol. Yep. Well, you can tell the reach that the banking entities have into Congress and various other... They'll just take anything they're told if God Bank says. Well, again, I have to defer back to the issues when we were discussing earlier on the show, the aspects of Eric Holder and why he's not reacting and why Lanny Brewer is not prosecuting. They can't do this because of the fact that they've had ties to MERS Corp. And MERS Corp, by the way, is now MERS Corp Holdings, Inc. They changed in February of this year. You mean the same folks that shipped guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment were instrumental in setting this up? Well, I guess the same people that want my guns. Come on, you're doing the. But again, they run it. So if I was an insider, I could just say I owned your house. Just come take it. Just I'm God.
It's really sad. I feel so sorry for the plumber in New Jersey that owed a $140 sewer bill, and the county actually sold it to an investor who came back and foreclosed on the house without the guy knowing about it, and then said, well, you know that $140 sewer bill that I just bought the lien on? You owe me $37,500. The bank, because of the fact that that forced the homeowner into default, the bank ended up going back in and negotiating at several tens of thousands of dollars and tacked it onto the guy's mortgage loan.
Oh, I remember there was a case in Houston where a woman didn't pay. It was like $10 and they took her house.
Exactly.
I think that's good. I think that's freedom.
Well, sure, of course it is. On the sarcastic.
Now, how dare you write this book and try to help people?
I understand. You know,
and how dare us sell it?
Well, you know, a lot of people have referred.
You didn't build this book. Obama wrote it. Did you hear him say he did everything the government did?
Of course. You know,
I guess in a way their crimes did write this book.
He has a robo-signer on his mortgage in Illinois.
What's wrong with that? Yeah,
of course. You know,
it's illegal, but you know,
as long as he's willing to let it sit there.
Well, I just
he doesn't want to react.
The government wrote your book.
Yeah, well, they helped me write it.
No, but you've
helped me write it.
But I mean, you heard Obama say if you have a small business or made a song or wrote a book, you didn't do that.
Yeah, of course.
He told Bob the Builder you didn't build that. But thanks for the campaign slogan.
Exactly, and you invented the internet too.
Well, actually, Al Gore did. Yeah, well, I mean, he did everything. You know, Al Gore actually is probably Mother Earth. He gave birth to the planet.
Just about.
5 trillion years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very impressed. David Krieger, former news director, TV, radio host, all over the country. And he's written the book, Clouded Titles, available right now, InfoWarsShop.com. Get the UN gun treaty info. It's bombshell right now.